I'm in the middle of sorting out some of my garden harvests from the season, and I want to share a little bit about how much food you can put aside during the garden season, and what kind of do you need to add to it in order to have enough food over winter. So I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Now this is for two people, and we're assuming we're cooking the majority of the meals at home. So what we've got here is squash, zucchini. I just got these new trays. I'm going to start putting stuff in trays. I was putting it in boxes. There's some squash, spaghetti squash, again zucchini, more zucchini. You can see some of the zucchini needs to get eaten soon because it's starting to, this is like 3 months in here. Potatoes. Some potatoes here. I got probably another 5 pounds of potatoes to dig up and get out here. And some of these potatoes need to be eaten sooner than others because they've got little marks in them. But all the potatoes are kind of left out to air. More squash. Pumpkins. Okay, these cabbages look pretty nasty. They're pretty rough. But basically what we got here is a large amount of vegetables that would support the core of the diet, but you would need to add probably 50 pounds of rice and about 20 pounds of beans. You could do 50 pounds of beans, 20 pounds of rice. Doesn't really matter. But what you don't have here is your complex proteins. So whether it's maybe 25 pounds of meat in the freezer, or rabbit, or if you have rabbit alone, you're not going to get enough fat out of that. So you probably want to have beef, pork, lamb, a variety of things. You're also going to have some spoilage. So that pumpkin right there is probably 3 months old. It's been down here for about 3 months. Now it's 65 to 70 degrees down here. And again, like I said, I'm going to take all this stuff out and resort it. I'd like to get all these plastic containers I just got into this shelf here. But you're looking at, you need to store 1,200 calories per day, minimum, per person. If you're going to feed every meal out of your storage, then you need about 2,000 calories today. These vegetables don't represent a lot of calories, and the longer that they're down here in the cellar, the more nutrients they lose. So your potatoes, things like that, probably should be a much cooler environment. The pumpkins, see that pumpkin right there is starting to look a little rough, and that's a newer pumpkin put in here, so it didn't dry out all the way. So what you're going to end up doing is you're going to go through and select vegetables and pull them and eat them as they're available. And I've had at least this much veg in here eaten, so I keep replenishing it. But again, if you don't have proper storage, if you don't have enough air between the items, I actually had some stuff in this box here that rotted. There's actually more potatoes under that bucket there. I need to get those straight. But ultimately, how you organize, what you put in, and the volume of calories are what's going to matter to overwinter. Now, ideally, you're going to have your garden in place late into the fall and early in the spring. And that's where you're going to get your greens that are going to have your minerals. It's where you're going to get other additional vegetables. You might have fruit coming off of trees at the end of your season, but it's actually a lot of work to do this. So as we talked about in other programs with Prosperity Homestead, there is the pantry management and your household management, kind of being your own quartermaster. There's the storage and preservation of vegetables, and a lot of people don't talk about this these days. Most modern homes don't have, especially in the United States, they don't have good storage for pantry vegetables. Sure, you can get canned goods, and I keep a lot of kidney beans and pinto beans and garbanzo beans. Actually, I have pancake mix back in there. There's some dried stuff over here. Of course, we do have some preserved foods. Survival type of food that's freeze dry, long-term storage. But altogether, every item has a limited shelf life, and you can store it, but if you don't produce enough calories, you're not going to have the nutritional value, the long-term growth. So, and some of these vegetables, by the way, they were ripened out in the garden much longer than you would at a grocery. So they're all true to seed, by the way. But this yellow gourd here yellow squash is all bumpy. You usually don't see that. But again, I'm saving the seeds, the viable seeds. I'm replanting in them next season. So I'm okay with a heritage breed. It's something that's not going to have a clean, soft skin. So these squashes here, the yellow ones, their skin's a little tough. Usually cut them in half, bake them, core out the inside. This lighter yellow one right here is a little bit softer. And of course, the spaghetti squashes, you don't usually eat the skin on those. These zucchinis, you can see how they're starting to turn yellow. Those are the oldest zucchinis in here. Oh, so this is another thing it's real important to understand, is you want to have some cycle to understand aging. So those are the oldest zucchinis. These came in about the same time. This next row is the next oldest right here. And then the latest items to come in are over here. By the way, that pumpkin right there, look, that's a Korean pumpkin. That pumpkin's color is just ideal. Ideal, actually. This is soft. Okay, so this one's getting a little soft here. I need to prepare that one. So putting it on cardboard is not the best thing to do. That's why I bought these baskets. So your space is going to have to get constantly recycled and cleaned. You want to constantly be looking for pests. You want to have everything nice and airy. You want to have everything easy to get to. You want to have the temperature cool. You can hear the dehumidifier in the background. You don't want too much moisture, and you don't want it to be too dry. But when all these things come together, you can, in one season, in a casual way, put up enough food to carry you over winter and into the next season. If the plants are viable, meaning they have viable seeds, then you can save the seeds. So I'm technically saving squash, which is food, but I'm also saving the seeds associated with new squash plants in the future. And usually what's going to store best is going to be kind of what you've let grow longer, so the seeds are better. And, this doesn't count the, I don't know, about probably 50 or so squashes and zucchini that I ate when they were much smaller and more delicate. So really what I want to do is summarize here and show you that it's not that hard to start somewhere to set up a pantry and start preserving foods and saving foods for the winter. And the concept is, though, that you're going to plan. So your vegetables alone are not going to feed you. You need to have some kind of starches. Potatoes is a good starch. But you're not going to want to eat the same damn thing all winter long. So potatoes, rice, beans. Beans are great because they do have a little bit of starch, but they do also have proteins and fiber. Then you're going to have, no corn here. Corn would be great too. Beans, corn, and rice together make a complex protein. But the freezer has meat in it. It has rabbit, goat, cow, and hog, pig. And, that's going to depend. So you don't want to have too much of any one thing. You want to still maintain a balanced diet. And then again, the longer this food stays in here, the more likely it'll go bad. I have taken items out of here that have gone bad and salvage the seed out of them, throw the rest of it in the compost. Now, when you're salvaging seed out of a vegetable that's gone bad, you got to wash the seed, dry the seed, make sure it's not going to contaminate your other seeds. But ultimately, every one of those seeds represents more abundance in your pantry. So we call it Prosperity Homestead for a reason. You're managing your homestead, small farm, or estate in such a way that it increases value, monetary value, but also increases the abundance of plants and materials that will serve and satisfy your family, and then the recreational value of the land itself. If you're interested in any of these topics or you have questions about what we covered, my name is Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead, and I show you a lot of this stuff unfiltered because I really want you to understand that you can start where you are today. And to be fair, I'm going to turn around. Here's my seed storage, okay? And then the kids got a whole bunch of junk here. And then for some reason, I saved the jars up because sometimes the jars are the right size, and I match up the sizes. I got canning jars there. And then I was kind of surprised about how much of that ice cream I ate. Look at all that ice cream. But anyway, it doesn't have to be perfect. You will sometimes tear it all down and build it all back up again because it's not going to be exactly the way you need it. But if you've got even a small amount of space, you can start sorting containers to store small items such as the seeds. using racks and trays and boxes, if that's all you've got, to store the vegetables. And then eventually you can upgrade to these stackable vegetable containers, which give you a much better ventilation. They're easier to clean, and ultimately gives you a little bit of space to store out, to spread out stuff and store your food. Your rices, beans, grains, that kind of stuff, lentils, those are great. They need to be stored in buckets or containers. And if you're interested in any of this, visit the website at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Ask your questions, and I'll do a video or something. While it does take time, and by the way, yes, that is beer and water stored under here. Yes, it does take time, but it's worth it, because in my winter season, I hardly have to go to the grocery store. And when I do go to the grocery store, I'm not buying any of the bulk items. I've got squash and zucchini and all my food's in season and ultimately fresh, eaten out of the garden. But a lot of it that I can't eat fast enough coming out of the garden, again, goes into storage for the winter. Be prepared. Be prosperous. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, helping owners of small farms, homesteads, and estates get more from their land, have better sustainability, prosperity, and wealth. Thanks for listening.